my privilege to introduce Mayor Ginther. Mayor Ginther is a Columbus native and a proud Columbus City School graduate. By the way, I asked for a bio for mayor, and I was sent a 10-page bio. So I tried to minimize it. So, and this is in 6-font letter, by the way. Mayor Ginther earned a BA in political science from Earlham College, studied abroad at the University of Ulster and Queen's College in Northern Ireland, taught at public school in Belfast and Derry. He also interned at the Carter President Center in Atlanta, where he taught nonviolence and dispute resolution. Mayor Ginther, wife Shannon, and their young daughter, 7 years old, to be 7 years old, live in Clintonville. He has a long history of community service. Mayor Ginther community service includes Columbus Board of Education in 2001 to 2008, Columbus City Council from 2007 to 2015, and he served as a president of council from 2011 onwards. Under his leadership, the city of Columbus was named America's Opportunity City, and he continues to work with community leaders, businesses, faith and labor leaders as well, to promote opportunities for every person in every neighborhood. Neighborhood development is very important to Mayor Ginther. Mayor Ginther believes that strong, distinctive neighborhoods are the foundation of a great city. He is dedicated to lifting all neighborhoods, especially those who have not benefited from the growth and Columbus is enjoying as a whole. In the first year, the mayor created a Department of Neighborhoods to a one-stop shop that works as a gateway to community service. In addition, Mayor Ginther created position of Chief Diversity Officer to ensure that the city leads the way in hiring and providing business opportunities for women and minorities. In his first year of office, and he continues to do a lot of things in the first year of office. I don't know what he'll continue to do in the next 16 years, right? The city was awarded the U.S. Department of Transportation Smart Cities Challenge, and that's what he will be speaking about. Yeah?
Good afternoon, and thank you, CK, for that generous introduction. And if you got a 10-page bio, I guess our creative writing department is doing their best to get the news out there. I'm excited to be back with you here today. It's an honor to come share a little bit of what we've been working on, in particular with respect to Smart Columbus. So I want to thank President Jack Graff and all of you for having me back. We are coming up on an important anniversary for the city of Columbus. It was June last year that the U.S. Department of Transportation announced that we had been selected the winner of the Smart Cities Challenge Grant. That was an amazing day. And we hosted former Secretary Fox and all of our great partners over at Douglas Recreation Center in Linden. It's been an amazing ride ever since then. For those of you who don't know, the Smart Cities Challenge Grant asked cities for proposals on how they would transform transportation in their city if awarded a $40 million grant from DOT. They weren't talking about how we could add more lanes to existing freeways. They wanted true innovation that could be scaled and used throughout the country. Our great city, Columbus, beat out 77 other fine American cities, great American cities, like Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Denver, Portland. One reason I believe we won that grant was because of the commitment of our community. At the time of the proposal, we had raised more than $90 million in local commitments and investments from private and other public entities here in the region to match the $40 million from the Department of Transportation and an additional $10 million from Paul Allen's Vulcan Incorporated. Since then, in just 1 year's time, we have commitments for a total of more than $367 million for this work. And I have set a bold goal, but I'm more confident than ever before we will top $1 billion by 2020. Public-private partnerships have been the hallmark of development and great opportunities for growth in our community for decades, leading to the redevelopment of the Scioto Peninsula and the riverfront, as well as Columbus Commons. Public-private partnerships really define us as who we are. The Harvard Business School teaches a course entitled The Columbus Way, because they believe, and I happen to agree with them with my bias, that we do public-private partnerships better than any other city in America. And we know that for every $1 the city invests in these public-private partnerships, we're able to get $24 to $26 in private funding to make projects a reality. So we are treating Smart Columbus like a startup. Probably some of you have some experience with some startups. We've moved our headquarters to the Idea Foundry in Franklinton, co-locating our teams from both the public and private sector working together. And we have lots of great partners. We wouldn't be where we are today without the amazing leadership and vision of Nick Akins at American Electric Power, Dr. Michael Drake at The Ohio State University, Dr. Jeff Wadsworth of Battelle, Honda, and so many other great partners that helped us with this work. The heart of Smart Columbus is the Integrated Data Exchange, a dynamic cloud-based platform that integrates data from multiple sources, and we've shared some of it. In May, we released the Smart Columbus Sandbox, or data sets, so developers can start creating apps that are compatible with Smart Columbus. I'm also excited about our work with Vulcan Incorporated. As you know, I am committed to sustainability initiatives, and our city and community has a very proud history in this endeavor. We've had great success reducing greenhouse gas emissions in city operations by almost 35% over the last 10 years. And we will continue to explore a 100% green, renewable energy portfolio for our city. With our collaboration with Vulcan, we'll be adding electric vehicles to our fleet and charging stations throughout the city to continue our green efforts. Another reason I believe that we were named Smart Columbus was because of the broad view we took of the project. Instead of proposing on simply how to move people from point A to point B, we looked at how to use transportation to move people onto ladders of opportunity, connecting the disconnected, and making sure that regardless of where you lived in our community, that you had access to higher education, employment opportunities, high quality, affordable child care, and to some of the things you and I take for granted, like simple access to fresh fruits and vegetables and health care options. Columbus is in a time of unprecedented growth and sustained record low unemployment and a AAA bond rating from all three rating agencies. The only big city in America with such a rating, which saves our taxpayers upwards of $28 million a year in interest alone that we can reinvest in capital projects. 2/3 of our city are doing very well. But here's the flip side. Not every family in every neighborhood is sharing in our success, and that shouldn't be acceptable to any of us. I believe that mobility is the great equalizer of the 21st century. So regardless of where you're born or where you live, if you have mobility, being able to access ladders of opportunity and job centers throughout the region can make a dramatic difference in the quality of life of our families and in our neighborhoods. One of the flagship components of Smart Columbus focuses on Linden. You all know that Linden is a community where unemployment is almost 3 times higher than other places in our city. Incarceration is more than 6 times higher than the rest of our city. And babies are 3 times more likely not to make it to their first birthday. One neighborhood away is one of the largest job centers in all of central Ohio. And one neighborhood on the other side of the interstate has the lowest infant mortality in the region. So we know that if we can connect neighborhoods and the residents of these neighborhoods to health care, to job opportunities, to workforce development, chances, as well as support for their family, we know we can realize the vision of becoming America's opportunity city. And what does that mean to me? It means we have the largest middle class of any city our size in the country, and a place you're more likely to go from poverty to the middle class and beyond than anywhere else. Mobility is one of the cornerstones for us to realize that vision. We're looking at ways to provide reliable, consistent transportation access, including the first and last mile challenges, whether it's from Linden to the Easton Center, to all those jobs that Bob Weiler's creating up at Polaris and other places in our great community. That means rapid transit options that CODA has already started. It also means autonomous vehicles, rideshare, and bike share options, as well as cash-based universal transit cards for those who don't have bank accounts. There are 30,000 people living in Linden that don't have a bank account. Jordan Miller just wrote that down. He's on his way to Linden this afternoon. Here's the key. All the transit options that you and I take advantage of, what do they require? A debit card or a credit card. So how do we open up these different options to our neighbors in Linden? We're creating a transit card, a cash-based system that you can use, whether it's Uber, taxi, bike share, car share, options that get you to that Cleveland Avenue rapid transit line to opportunities throughout our great city, the first mile and last mile. So to paraphrase one of Apple Computer's famous slogans, we're doing things different with Smart Columbus. But that is what is going to make us the Silicon Valley of mobility and the first intelligent transportation system for any city in America. Our future has never been more bright because the way we have gone after this work and started this journey, the Columbus way, with the public and private sector working together, investing in building up capacity of our residents and our neighbors, and building a brighter future for our children and grandchildren. Thank you for having me here today, and I would be honored to take any questions that you all might have.
Mayor Ginther, your presentation was very people-oriented, which of course is a workforce initiative, is a very big part of our community and supporting business, but how does the Smart City designation interface with movement of freight, which also supports our industries?
It's a great question, and we have exciting opportunities. You take a look at the juggernaut that is Rickenbacker and the way that that has taken off over the last 10 years, and I'm told that the intermodal there was already operating at capacity. and potentially could double if the right resources and commitment are made. Well, we're also going to be, one of the other pilots is this truck platooning option that is being researched and demonstrated throughout the country. We believe that Rickenbacker is going to be another place that we can really introduce truck platooning to move goods more quickly to other places around the country. One of the reasons that Rickenbacker and Columbus is such a great option for folks bringing goods into the United States and then sending our goods to other places around the world. That's something that we have finally, I think, really realized is, yes, it's a great place to bring goods in, but what a great place for us to send our goods, the things that are being produced here and in the Midwest, to other places around the world, is because I believe it's 80% of the continental U.S. markets are within 1 day's drive of Columbus. And nothing against my friends in Chicago and other major cities in the United States, but we're a heck of a lot cheaper, and it's a lot more accessible to send goods in and out of Columbus and getting them out to markets around the country. So that is going to be another key part to this, that integrated data exchange and having an intelligent transportation system. So while we're moving goods, folks can understand what are the best routes. So being able to route goods to the best, most efficient path, as well as getting things in and out of Columbus faster and more efficiently is a big part of the plan.
Yeah. Mayor Ginther, a few weeks ago you were kind enough to attend our partnership with Columbus City Schools for our annual student service above South. You could just give your comments on your impressions, and then what's the status of the sidewalk by that one female high school student?
Well, the fair was another great partnership, and the way the Rotarians lift up and highlight some of the great young people in this community, and also have them take some ownership of their priorities and challenges that they face in their neighborhoods. And so that class in particular was focused on sidewalks and connectivity. As many of you all know, sidewalks weren't required by developers in mass annexation that took place under the Sensenbrenner policy and otherwise around access to water and sewer. There were many places, I think they call it the pre-1950 boundaries, and then other townships and otherwise that joined the city where sidewalks weren't required. And so some of the places have obviously grown dramatically since we were 250,000 people in 1950 and now knocking on 1 million. And so wanting to make sure that we're going back and investing in some of those areas. Since then, we've required developers as they build and construct that they've installed sidewalks and put those in place. But there are many places in our city that we're still trying to catch up. And believe it or not, a mile of sidewalks costs about $1 million to install. So they're not cheap, but very, very important. Particularly, when we talk about mobility, it's an all of the above strategy. There are some people that believe that there's one answer out there, whether it's, a bus, rapid transit, mass transit, light rail, streetcar. We really need to take, and this is why Smart Columbus is so important, is it's got to be an all of the above strategy if we really want to tackle that first mile and last mile challenge. So these high school students, I think it was at Refugee Road? Independence High School, and I think it was Refugee Road. There's a stretch. Anybody that's been down Refugee knows it's grown quite dramatically over the last 25 years. And so it is on our radar, and Greg Davies, who's the current chief of staff, will be the former chief of staff if we don't get those sidewalks installed very, very quickly. But yeah.
Larry Anderson. Over there, Larry.
Yeah, Larry.
Yes, Mayor, where are we on the common recognition card for immigrants and refugees and Hispanic folks who are here, maybe even on a temporary working period, so that they do not, when they get called over for a traffic violation or whatever and don't have a driver's license, they can be recognized for who they are? We have that card in process now?
I know that there are discussions. This is a discussion that's been ongoing with different groups for a couple of years, and it started out as a recognition of a particular type of ID, and now it's being discussed as a city ID, and there are some cities that have issued these IDs. So we're still in conversation with those groups, law enforcement, trying to determine, if this card would really give the benefits that some of the proponents say they would for recognition and support. Would they be recognized by the state and by the federal government? How can we ensure to protect the security of that identification if it were issued, to make sure that they were very difficult to forge or duplicate by folks that weren't associated with the city. So it's a much more complicated discussion and concept that we're in ongoing conversations about. But I think, it's very important for us, particularly in times like these, if we want to become America's opportunity city, that we remain smart and open and send a very clear message to people who were born here, like me, or on the other side of the world, that everybody belongs in Columbus and that everyone should feel safe and secure here, regardless of conversations that might be taking place at Washington and other places around the country. That's what helps us keep our competitive edge, and it's why we continue to grow while other cities around the country do not.
Yeah. They say nothing succeeds like success. Do you have in your gun sight any low-hanging fruit in this area that you could show some tangible success that you can then point to build enthusiasm for what? It's a big job you're talking about.
Specific to Smart Columbus?
Yeah. Specific things that you can say, we started, and then here we did this, and it works, and this is just an example. Now imagine how we can go further.
Yeah, some of the pilots I talked about, obviously this transit card, so that folks that currently are unbanked have access to all the modes of transportation that you and I have access to today. That's going to be a top priority. This integrated data exchange will be really the foundation for this intelligent transportation system that we're putting in place. Those are some of the most tangible things, and I think we do that integrated data exchange. We have this transit card system set up. Then we're going to hopefully take it to Trent's neighborhood in Franklinton and other neighborhoods around the city. And I think, quite honestly, with the work that we're going to be doing in Rickenbacker, I think there might be other opportunities for economic development in other places around the city, some of the other major job centers, if we get the truck platooning and other things right. And that's the work you're going to really see in the next 12 to 24 months.
Over here, John.
Yeah.
Sometimes in innovation, you look back and build off of that. Is there anything going to be done with the waterways? I didn't hear anything mentioned about using the Olentangy and Scioto and bringing in transportation via that factory.
Well, Coleman and I always used to joke that we wanted to be able to kayak to work from Clintonville. There's some significant progress that's been made there with the removal of the overhead dams and the greenways project. I think I continue to believe, particularly what's going on and what will take place on the peninsula with the National Veterans Museum, the redevelopment of the Scioto Peninsula, and connecting both to the south and to the north. You raise an interesting point, and it's something I go back to, that there are some folks who question whether or not greenways and bike trails, and they would say 5 or 10 years ago, well, what does that have to do with economic development? What are you talking about? What does that mean to economic development? This is a statistic, and I think you remind me of it today, that every day for the next 15 years, 16,000 boomers will retire every day in America. 16,000 every day for the next 15 years. So the next great battle is going to be which communities can attract and retain talent. Because the way it worked for our parents and grandparents, huge companies went to communities and the people followed. I think over the next 20 or 40 years, you're going to see companies identifying where they want to headquarter based on who has a disproportionate amount of young, skilled talent, because that is going to be in great demand during this same period of time. So trying to figure out more ways that we can leverage. We don't have an ocean, we don't have mountains, we don't have other aspects that some of the coastal cities have, but then we don't have the tax rates and some of the other challenges that they have to deal with as well. So trying to figure out some other ways for us to leverage that, with our Smart Columbus plan is a great idea.
Right here.
Yeah.
Mayor Ginther, when you look west to Franklinton and the west side, seems to me one of the impediments to growth is the huge rail bed that goes just west of Coastside. Has any consideration ever been given to try to get that rerouted around so that would just open up that whole area over there?
I'm not aware of any that, I haven't been involved in any, and anybody in here that's ever had to deal with the railroads, it's I just heard George Arnold groan over here. Anybody that's ever had to deal with the roads, it's a tricky element. I mean, just trying to get some of the things that they were carrying through certain parts of the Arena District and other things have been a big challenge. It's something obviously we're always going to be open with, and we talk with some of the major railroads, whether it's the intermodal, I think that's Norfolk Southern, is that right, down at Rickenbacker, and some of the others that we partner with. Great expansion by one of them out on the far west side just in the last couple of years. Something certainly we can talk about. It's a lot trickier than you might think to a group of folks that have been around since pre-Civil War that have been pretty much directly accountable to the federal government. They really don't care what mayors and city councils and even governors and state legislatures have to say. So, but something we're open to. One of the things I think we're also going to figure out with partners at Mount Carmel and others is, how do we take what might be a barrier or a challenge and turn it into an opportunity? And I think the activity and the energy that you are seeing today in East Franklinton, we want to try to leverage that and help make sure that West Franklinton sees the same type of energy and excitement. We want to make sure we protect the diversity. I always say we want to keep Franklinton funky. We don't want it to just be wiped out and the people of Franklinton who have called that neighborhood home for generations. But we also want to make sure that we're leveraging our collective community resources into improving the quality of life there. It is one of our opportunity neighborhoods. Everybody thinks of Franklinton as this great, modern day short north. Well, it's Franklinton's a big place, and as Trent will tell you, they also have one of the highest infant mortality rates in the community, and there are big differences between income and education levels there as well, and we want to try to protect that socioeconomic diversity at the same time. So I think there's a great opportunity there on both sides of the train tracks if we can't get them moved.
Back there.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about reasonable price housing, because that seems to be an increasing issue. And if we're looking for people moving here and being attracted, you're not going to get business who just has higher income people. You need workers. And my understanding, it's great that we're developing Columbus, that's awesome. But we also need niches or some kind of plan so that we've got a mix of all ranges of income can afford living here.
Couldn't agree more. And we actually are meeting with, I think actually Greg's meeting with them today, folks from the Affordable Housing Alliance, led by E.J. Thomas, who heads up Habitat for Humanity here locally, a good friend. And we have been very supportive and leveraged significant amount of resources, whether it's tax credits and other types of things, to help expand affordable housing options in this community. But here's a stat that'll stick with you. The average two-bedroom apartment in this county is $812 a month, where the median income, I think, is still at $43,000 a year. I said to my colleague and friend, Steve Adler, who's the mayor of Austin, that we have an affordable housing crisis in Columbus. He corrected me and told me I had a problem. In Austin, the average two-bedroom apartment is $1,300 a month. And a lot of working class, hardworking people in Austin have been pushed further and further away from the central city. And I think the Dispatch just did a story this weekend about some of the same impact having on central city neighborhoods in Columbus. That's why Smart Columbus is so important. But it's also the reason that for the first time in the city's history, we're reviewing our incentive policy. And looking at how can we achieve some of our public policy goals, whether it's diversity and inclusion, whether it's affordable housing. How can we use, if folks want to work with us and want us to partner with them on infrastructure and incentives and abatements, what are they doing to help us with our collective public policy goals? And so one of the things you may very well see is a requirement for folks that want to invest and develop in certain neighborhoods. Maybe they should make a certain percentage of those units affordable. And if they can't do it and don't want to be involved in that type of thing, why don't they make a significant investment into an affordable housing alliance to continue to grow the number of affordable units throughout the community? I am a big believer that our neighborhoods ought to reflect the beautiful socioeconomic diversity of this entire community. I don't believe that there ought to be high concentrations of poor people in certain neighborhoods. It's not good for those neighborhoods. It's not good for this community. It's not good for those families. And so I believe that we have to have a comprehensive community-wide effort to deal with that 54,000 unit shortage.
We have time for one more. Back over here.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming to see us again and for supporting our service above Self Fair. Leveraging reputation and investments that the community and the region have done over the years into putting ourselves on the map, how does the transportation Smart Columbus play into the investments that we made in making reputation for ourselves in the technology front? How does the transportation and the technology dovetail?
Great question. And this is one of the reasons we were very fortunate to find a fellow named Mike Stevens to help lead the Smart Columbus, the city side effort. Mike, extensive background in economic development. He came in, was worried, I'm not a technology expert. I said, we got technology experts. We got folks who can block and tackle and do all those types of things in a great entrepreneurial and startup community. What we need is somebody that can connect, what's the future of economic development. If our space is the IoT, the Internet of Things, if that's the place that we believe that we can leverage this for the greatest short-term and long-term economic development benefit for this community, we need somebody who understands job creation and economic development and workforce development. Because one of the greatest things that happened in Linden in one of our community meetings is we had men and women say, oh, this is great, this is fantastic, you're gonna connect me, this and that, but I'm a small business. So how do I get in on this? How do I start to figure out how to install and put these types of systems in place and grow my business? That's when we really know we've been successful, is whether or not we have built the capacity of local female minority-owned companies to actually help us build this Smart Columbus, and then ultimately go do that work in other cities around the country. The one other point I would make is that we are going to triple in size over the next 30 years. We're going to grow at the rate over the next 15 to 20 that we have in the last 75. So if we don't do it based on data, with good planning, and looking at the collective whole, we will be at a huge competitive disadvantage. Be companies, workers, others will choose to go elsewhere because we didn't grow the right way. That type of growth is something that this city and community have never seen. We've been very steady, about 10% a year over the last 70 years or so. This community is going to change dramatically in the next 15 to 20 years. Change is hard, but it is also very, very exciting. It reminds me of the old Chinese curse or blessing, depending on how you view it. May she live in interesting times. And whether we like it or not, we live in very interesting times. Thanks for having me.
Mayor Ginther, your presentation was fabulous. What was even better is to be able to, on the fly, answer all the questions from the average Columbus citizens. We appreciate it very much on behalf of Columbus Rotary. Thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.